And I think I want to thank Judd for drafting a resolution very quickly for us so that we could close this out tonight and not have, usually what happens or what has happened in the past is we've adjudicated and then come back another month to look at the resolution. So as you may have seen, the draft resolution really has two options. One is if we do decide to impose a civil penalty, and another if we decide, no civil penalty. So I would look for some comments or thoughts from any members of the board on this.
Well, don't we have to discuss that in executive session, the imposition of a penalty and our determinations? I don't know if how easy that is to do by Zoom, but don't we have to do that executively?
Greg, we previously did that, but there was a change in board policy about 2 years ago, where the board opted to have these discussions in open session. They can be conducted either in executive session or open session, but I would say for the past 2 years, the penalty discussion has occurred in open session.
Yes, and that I think it was quite a while ago, because I think it might have been before I joined the board that change had been made, and I think that's how we've acted recently. Yes, Jerome.
Yeah, I would say that the applicant here has acted in good faith, and his attorney has mentioned they acted quickly, and as Jan has said, they've really made significant improvement. And any expenditures that we've made, such as inspections and so forth, were part of the wetland permit process that would have happened anyway if they had taken out the permit. So I would make a motion to approve the resolution with no penalty, no further penalty.
Any other comments?
I think this should probably be a token penalty. I wouldn't call it a token, but I don't think we should approve getting to this habit. So I think we should probably do something along the lines of $100.
I will say that in
Could we have a second and then maybe?
Oh, sorry.
What are we seconding?
Can I comment
proposal,
first before?
If we have a second, then we can amend it. I think.
Oh, all right. Okay. I thought you were just throwing that out there.
No.
So.
Well, I would accept an amendment that Greg is recommending $100. Would you say 100?
Yeah.
I would accept that.
All right. With the amendment of a $100 fine, I would second the motion.
Do we have an idea of the costs, the internal costs that we went through for, sending somebody out there, et cetera? I don't want to, while I agree that I don't feel this should be punitive, I don't want to lose money. I don't want the town to lose money. So should that be a consideration?
Maureen, I can't quantify whatever pre-violation costs were incurred, but certainly with regard to anything that happened after the wetland permit application was submitted, which occurred, I think in this instance, within 3 or 4 days after the initial appearance before the planning board, all of that was encompassed and paid for through applicant escrow to the town. Right. So the town has been made whole for all of the time expended by Keller Sessions, by my office, associated with the processing of the wetland and the stormwater permit activity permits.
Yeah, I would say that, they get Kirsten's efforts for free, but, that's, but nothing.
Yeah, I don't mean to diminish Kirsten's efforts at all, please. Yeah.
But I think the paid consultants get, are reimbursed by the applicant. I think the other thing I would bring up is that in 2005, there was the resolution of another wetland violation by the same individuals at the same residence, and that was a $600 fee. I do think we should have, I do feel some some token, perhaps, that it's a recognition that it would be better to have people come in and get a permit. And I realize that this might not have been done with knowledge. But with that, so we do have a motion and a second for $100. Do we have any further discussion on this?
You know, just out of curiosity, you had mentioned that in 2005, there was a $600 fine. Do we know how much they spent to correct their violation, you know, to do whatever work was necessary at the time? Just curious.
I do not have that.
All right.
I,
Because that's probably, I mean, that's the reason why we're talking about the numbers here, because of what we anticipate or what we interpret to be, you know, something of a substantial outlay of monies here now.
And Greg, I don't know if we have that information, and I'm not sure if at that time that information was elicited before fines were, I just don't know.
All right, but you know, just, you know, to make a comparison, to make a fair comparison, I think you'd have to look at that. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I guess I'm going to call poll the board. Charlene.
Aye.
Jerome.
Aye.
Greg.
Yes.
Maureen.
Aye.
And I also say yes. So the resolution with the first version, but with a $100 fine, has been approved. And I want to say that Kirsten has now told me, and we can now see that we are now live on YouTube. Thank you, Kirsten, for getting that up and working. And welcome to the people who might be joining us late. There was a problem, an error. We kept getting an error trying to connect. But welcome now, and we'll continue with our with our meeting. Okay, I think, and I just want to make sure with Judd, you have the resolution and can get that to Kirsten and get that signed, correct? Oh, you're muted. Judd, you're still muted. Try hitting the space bar.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, I can.
Okay, good. The next item on the agenda is calendar number 03-20 WV, calendar number 29-21 WP, 3 Beaver Pond, South Salem, New York. This is a site visit report. So if everyone allows, I will start off, and then if there's any additions that want to be made, we can do it. The site visit was on April 24th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. From the planning board, attendees were me, Charlene and Delicato, Jerome Kerner, Greg LaSorsa. From the CAC, Val Andes was there. The homeowners were present, and they showed us around the property. Homeowners reported that 11 trees that were relatively close to their house were cut down, chipped, excuse me. And the chips were spread on the area, but they did stop spreading the chips short of the pond. They used mechanical equipment to spread the chips. The chips appeared to be at least 6 inches deep. When I tried to dig down, I don't know if anybody else tried to look. The homeowners also said they were trying to protect the pond they treated it with a couple of different products, and they also ran an aerator in the pond. The homeowners also said that they had cut and filled an area behind their house. No additional fill was brought in, but this earthen fill extended to the edge of a wetland that seemed to be present also at where either the roof or footing drains discharged, and then a small stream or wet area extended into a marshy area to the north. We could see that there was invasive Japanese knotweed. The homeowner said that they liked having it there. It was fairly widespread on the property, and in prior years they had cut paths through the knotweed akin to making a corn maze. So that's what we observed. I don't know if anyone has any other comments about what was seen there.
No.
Okay, so now I'll just give a little bit of commentary that I would not have given at the at the sidewalk. I think if this had been brought to us, we would not have approved it in the condition that and left it in the condition that we saw it. Areas of concern that I had in particular was the area of cut and fill had been leveled off and it had been seeded on the top, but it was bare dirt kind of down a steep slope to this wetland area. I wasn't really clear to me whether it was in the wetland, next to the wetland, but I was concerned that it would continue to erode down there. So I felt that was one concern. The second thing is that while mulch is used as a gardening, tool, that much mulch I think will release nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, for a while into the pond. And I think if there was a way to protect the pond, and I'm not sure if more plantings along the pond would do it because there is knotweed there. I don't know, but the homeowners are clearly concerned about the pond, and I'm concerned that the longer term provision of the impact of the mulch will be to release these nutrients into the pond. So I would really like to see, I believe it would be appropriate to ask for a wetland delineation and someone to give us some sense of what could be done to treat the slope so that it doesn't, that sort of cut and fill area doesn't just end up slumping into the wetland. And then perhaps some mitigation that would be needed. That's my reaction. Go ahead, Charlene.
I would agree with that. The possibility of erosion is great. You just see it, one good rain would have a lot of damage done.
You're talking about in addition to what they've done already, you want them to do these things on top of what they've done?
Well, yeah, because they did was not really under any kind of permit or, they just, yes. So I would say on top of that, I'd like to see this. Jerome.
At least it should be looked at to see what could be done.
I'm sorry.
Yep. Jerome.
Well, I'm raising a question as to whether or not we should be designing and instructing them, or are we instructing them to get professional help? You come back to us with a resolution to these questions.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that we really do need to see a wetland delineation and then a plan. I mean, I don't know whether, for example, the slope that's down, I don't know whether it could be, cut back or a wall or planted. I don't know what the answer is, but I am concerned about the slope eroding into the wetland. I don't know what the right thing to do. We have in the past required people to pick up wood chips that were in a wetland or wetland buffer. I don't know exactly whether this is in wetland or whether it's in buffer. I don't know what so I do think they need to get a wetland delineation, and I would certainly encourage them to speak to a professional about what could be best done to protect that's in their interest. I think they've expressed a desire to keep that pond healthy, and what could be done there.
Is anybody here on their behalf tonight?
Yes, I am. It's Garrett. How are you?
Good.
So Garrett is the homeowner.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand the concern on the slope. I'm wondering if the best way for me to deal with it is to plant the slope versus turning it into grass. I mean, I'm just there's multiple ways to alleviate that, but I could definitely get grass growing on it or plant it.
Yeah, I
think
mean,
grass
and
might be smarter.
I would, Janet, I would echo your recommendation for a wetland delineation, just so we could see where the wetland boundary is compared to where the work was performed and what is in the buffer and what's not. It's also, I believe, a state regulated wetland, regulated by the New York State DEC. And we've had similar cases. I believe Jacobson was the case on Elmwood Road, very similar to this, where wetland delineation was conducted. The extensive wood chips in the buffer ended up being removed in that area, planted. So I think that, from my opinion, is the path forward. With regards to the slope and the fill it's right, the toe of that slope is right adjacent to the wetland boundary. That could be handled as the owner has stated in a variety of different ways, whether it's a wall or the slope is a little steep. It could probably be cut back and planted. But I would echo your recommendation for some professional guidance on that.
As far as the wood chips go, though, but if I was to even remove the wood chips, it would just be straight bare soil. So wouldn't I also encounter a major erosion problem as well?
Yeah, but I think where the wood chips are is relatively flat. I think the erosion concern that the board had mentioned, from what I understand, is the slope that was created with the embankment of fill. I think if you remove the wood chips, and I know you have some hesitations, Garrett, on obviously trees within proximity to your home, and I think that's valid. But
yeah, there's no wood chips though where the slope is. It's all grass.
No, I understand. I think they're two separate issues. I think where the board is, from what I gather, and the board can correct me if I'm wrong, there seems to be a concern, and I think a valid one, with regards to the potential erosion on the slope or the fill that was placed in proximity to the wetland. Maybe that slope's a little too severe. Maybe it needs to get cut back and planted or grassed.
That's what my question is why can't I actually seed the heck out of it and get grass to grow, just as I did on the top of the hill?
That might be, I think from what I recall, it was a very steep slope. So maybe it needs to get cut back a little bit and before you seed it,
Or like you said, it could be that you cut it back and plant it with plants, or maybe, I don't know, a stone wall. I don't have an answer. What I am concerned about, and I think maybe we've heard from other members of the board, is that it isn't stable and that it will eventually erode further. So you'll lose some of that top flat area, and you'll also add dirt to the wetland area, so degrade the wetland.
And the placement of that fill there not only did it require a wetland permit from the town, it would have required a wetland permit from the DEC.
Janet?
So I think that, and then, sorry, let me just finish my thought on the, I do think that the mulch it's on a partly sloped area, and then it got pretty flat as I remember it. And, I think there again, plantings might be a beneficial thing. You are going to have, we talked about the Japanese knotweed. That is a problem. And it's probably going to be if you leave it, it's going to be it's going to be an effective shield between you. You won't be able to see much of the pond from it, but that is something that will grow whether the mulch is there or not. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jerome, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm going to be redundant and say that I think we should be stating our concerns and not designing it or taking responsibility for a solution. as Jan was saying, it should be professionals retained. And we just state our concerns. And,
Okay.
I think
Right.
we've
I
delivered.
agree.
Okay.
I have a concern that if the wood chips, because of the depth of the wood chips, if the wood chips are left alone, that there won't be any viable vegetation that grows because you're cutting off, the light hitting the ground surface. You might get some weed growth, but I think if the wood chips are left as they are, that there will be an impact to the wetland buffer by way of not allowing vegetation to grow there.
There's already a ton of vegetation that's been growing through it. That's why I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, it might be invasive, but I don't think you're going to get meaningful buffer replacement. That's just my perspective. I haven't been to the site since the violation originally occurred, so I can't speak to it. But when I was there, like Janet did, I took, I dug down and I couldn't find the bottom. So I think there's, from my perspective, quite a bit of depth there. And while seed could get in there and grow, I don't think it's going to be meaningful, viable vegetation and plantings that we would like to see in the buffer. And I think that, the DEC will probably have something similar to say. So as soon as you can engage them, the better. And the case that I was referring to earlier had the DEC involvement as well. And the solution in that case was remove the wood chips and provided native planting. In that case, I think it was a lot of, native seed mixes and such. It wasn't an extensive shrub or tree planting, but they took the wood chips out, scarified the surface, put a little topsoil, got a nice meadow to grow in there. So not saying that's what you need to do, but I think you do need to work with somebody to find a solution to address the concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that, to summarize, I think we've all kind of said, the first step is a wetland delineation, and then getting a professional who will help you best design something that addresses these concerns that we've mentioned.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Garrett, aren't you in this business?
Yeah, I'm in the irrigation and landscape lighting business. So I'm a contractor. So yes, I have people that I could use for this.
Well, I mean, oh yeah, okay, I understand that, but I mean, I was wondering from the standpoint of your own expertise.
Well, I would have personally just grasped the entire thing.
Okay, are you proposing that?
That's what I would like to do.
And that is what we proposed in our site plan.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well, typically in a buffer zone, we look for no mow. So, I mean, if you're talking about a meadow or something that would be cut maybe once a year, that's one thing. But if you're trying to make a lawn, I think that would be objectionable. John, am I correct there? No mow setback from the lake?
Yeah, typically the board doesn't, prefers not to see maintained lawn in the buffer to the extent possible, particularly as you get closer to the resource, in this case, the pond.
What if it was meadows or wildflowers and stuff like that?
I think that would be a possibility for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that might be a worthwhile thing to bring forward to us.
Okay.
So I think you understand now what we are looking for.
Yep.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, I do not.
Okay, good. So it might be a little quick to get back on the June agenda because that submission date is, a week away. So perhaps, I don't know, do you think you could get us something for the July meeting? And I will just check and make sure that I know what that submission date is.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that would say we should get something to us, a plan or wetland delineation by June 29th. Thank you. We'll look forward to see you in July. And obviously if there's a problem, you will let us know, but I think we'd like to move towards.
Yeah, I would love to
resolution.
get this resolved.
Great. Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda under sketch plan review is calendar number 01-15 PB. This is the Copia Garden Center, 475 Smith Ridge Road, South Salem, New York. This is the application for a sketch plan review site development plan. This is for unfinished improvements to the Copia Garden Center and expansion of the existing use onto the adjacent tax parcel. So again, we had a site visit there. Again, it was April 24th, 2021 at 9 a.m. And if the board will allow, I'll summarize and then anything can get added. The attendees from the planning board were Jan Anderson, that's me, Charlene Indelicato, Jerome Kerner, and Greg LaSorsa. From the CAC, attendees were John Wolf, Linda Ray, Val Andes, Joe Tanzi. I think that's all. And Michael Sirignano and the owner applicant were present. We were shown areas of the site plan that had not been completed. The parking areas to the north and south of the main, of the parking in the front were not defined. The owner said that the area would be top coated and lined. We also looked at the location where curb cuts would be installed along East Street. The applicant reported that all of the interior work and the greenhouses had been completed, but work remains to be done in the parking, the drive areas, curb cuts, a fence, and perhaps some plantings. When we were there, we noted that we didn't see any signs that would help direct customers and or any of the delivery trucks how to best enter and exit the parking areas. So that might be something that might be considered as well. So I don't think we had any. So first of all, I'll ask whether anybody else had any additions to that site plan. Yes, Charlene.
I don't quite understand the circulation, the traffic circulation. From what I understand, there's not a delineated entrance and exit. It's sort of, you just sort of come in either way. I don't understand how that's going to work, actually. But I wasn't on the board when it was decided.
Yeah, neither was I. But I mean, I think there were two different, the delivery trucks were gonna enter one place. And so I think that is something that we might want to look at making clear to people, although maybe, habitual users know what the routine is, but that might be something. Any other comments about the sidewalk? Yeah, Charlene.
One other, I know that they use the Vista parcel for storage. Where is that going to be placed after it's removed from the Vista market?
That's a question. Or whether it is, what the resolution, unfortunately, or I shouldn't say unfortunately, my understanding is that that's currently in residential zoning and that's not allowed. So that, that solution needs to be identified as part of the comeback to us with a fuller plan. Okay, we didn't get any more submissions here. I think one of the things we did ask for earlier was a better clarification of the current existing conditions and exactly what needs to get done. I think we will, that would be helpful for us both to better understand the current status, how much got done and what we need to do going forward. So I would just ask again that that be considered to be provided to us.
Yes, just say it again, exactly what you want.
Okay, so we, I think what we got was just one chart that showed everything. It showed, I think, what the prior final plan had been.
Correct.
And I think what would be helpful would be able to say, well, what has been completed and what needs to get completed. You know, I mean,
Okay.
so maybe it's almost an interim as-built, or maybe just a list of what got done and then a plan that shows this is what we have to do. So I don't want to cause too much work, but I think it would be really helpful to help us understand what is really being asked for here.
Okay, that's fine. And we'll also give some thought about signage and traffic flow.
Yeah, I think what was, sorry, Jen.
Go ahead, Jan.
I think what was requested at the last meeting was like an annotated site plan where either took an updated existing conditions plan and showed what you still needed to do, or take the old plan and have somebody identify bubble, areas that have been done, areas that are still to be done, and if there's any changes that need to be made to what was previously approved.
Right.
Looking back at my notes from the last meeting, the board asked for a full set of plans to be reissued and resubmitted. You had, I think, Michael, you had included just one prior sheet, but the board at the last meeting asked for the full set. The application was referred to the building inspector at that time. I don't think we've heard back yet. And then the board discussed the Vista Market parcel, which happens to be on tonight's agenda. So that's an unresolved piece, just how we're going to deal with that. But I think that's what was requested.
Yeah, I thought, not to maybe try to make it simpler, but the idea was a plan that would show all approved and implemented, and approved to be implemented, and maybe a subcategory of that is whatever tweaks you're looking for, just so we can get a sense of the full context of what the planning board has already approved and what's been done and what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think because there's some new membership that the board asked for a full set of plans be provided.
I think there's only one other category perhaps, Judge, and that is any modification that the applicant feels needs to be made after experiencing the operation over this period of time.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Very good. That's helpful. We'll get back to you with it.
Great, thank you. Any further comments on this before we move on? Okay, oh, Kirsten.
Wanted to add that I have not made the referral to the building inspector, as I was waiting on that annotated plan, so he would know what's been completed and what's outstanding.
Good point.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nothing more, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is calendar number 01-21 PB, number 08-21 WP. This is Vista Market, 469 Smith Ridge Road in South Salem, New York. It's an application for the installation of fuel dispensers in a current parking area of this property. And I am supposed to look, I heard Peter Gregory might be late, so since I don't see him on, perhaps
There's a phone number on. I don't know who that is.
It's me. My name is Kalpesh Rana, on a property owner over there, part of the owner Vista applicant.
Good. Hello. Thank you. Peter did ask that if he didn't make it in time that we skip over him and move
Yes.
on. Are you all
Yes.
right with that? Okay,
Yeah, he told me that just stay on the line. When the turns comes, just tell him to move on and he will join later on.
okay, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, and we will come back, and I'm going to ask Kirsten to help me keep an eye out for Peter so we can come back in a prompt manner when we get there. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is is an application for a waiver of site development plan procedure, and this is for calendar number 03-21 PB, Cameron's Deli expansion, 890 Route 35, Cross River, New York. This is an application for change of use for some portion of the existing property. So I am not sure who's on for this.
Yes, that's me.
Ah, okay.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Ibrahim Jamal. I own the property 890 Route 35, Cameron's Deli.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'd like just to expand the store, make it a little wider, and just do some remodeling.
Okay. So perhaps the next thing I'll do is ask Jan to kind of briefly hit on some of the items in your memo on this.
Yes.
Sure. This is Cameron's Deli, 890 Route 35. It's a 1.5 acre piece of property with a 2-story mixed-use building in the RB zone. The application is to expand the existing deli, Cameron's Deli, into the adjacent tenant space, which I believe was last occupied by a physical therapy space. So that's now vacant, and the proposal is to expand the deli into that space. What we looked at, and is kind of typical for change of use applications, is, does the parking work? Is it compliant with parking? With regards to the change of use, the deli may have a different parking calculation than the physical therapy did. So that's a question that has not yet been provided. And then typically these cases go back to the health department to verify that the change of use doesn't trigger any additional need for septic. And in this property some years ago, there was a septic, I don't know if it was a failure, but a replacement of the septic system in the front yard between the building and the street. So I know the health department's familiar with it. So those are really the two major items to kind of look for. Does the parking work? Is the health department okay with it? Signage, is there any signage changes? And then we had one additional comment. Oh, we had a few, but there's an outdoor seating area in the front of the building there that's, I think, used by Cameron's now. That should be shown on the site plan. I think it's something that's just kind of occurred over time, but should be documented on the site plan, particularly because the septic is in that general vicinity. And I'm not sure what the ground surface is there, if it's just lawn, is it gravel, pavement? I've been there a number of times, and I don't recall what the seating area surface material is, and there's some regulations that go into play there. So those were the main highlights from the memo. We have kind of general comments about things that need to be on all site plans that weren't there, but nothing really to bore the board with. Those were major items. So this would be something that could fall under the waiver of site development plan procedures. But before you were to act on that, you need to determine whether it's zoning compliant, which is why we need to refer this to the building inspector. If it comes back from the building inspector as being zoning compliant, you can waive the public hearing potentially and move the application. But there needs to be a little bit of work on the site plan. bring it up to standards.
Is the site plan adequate, do you believe, to refer to the building inspector at this point?
Well, there's no parking calculation on it, so I'd assume he's going to have the same comment as I did. So maybe the best thing to do would be to have the applicant respond to or revise the plan to respond to our comments and then refer it to the building inspector.
Okay, I think at some point we also have to refer it to ACARC, so,
Only if there's a exterior building modification, if there's any signage or storefront modifications, right? There didn't appear to be any on the site plan. It looked like an interior renovation job, but needs to be spelled out.
but if we ask them to do something on the seating area, would that turn it into ACARC, or is that just lawn decoration?
It depends on the extent of the improvement, but obviously that feature doesn't appear on the site plan yet. So I think that should get kind of squared away before it gets referred.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Has
Right,
the applicant seen the memo from Jan with the detailed information?
It was
Kirsten, did you send Mr. Jamal the comment letter from Kellogg Sessions?
Yes. Ibrahim, did you get the memo?
I think so.
I can
Try
resend
to-
it if you need.
Yes, please. Please, if you, I think I tried to print it when I'm in my office. Either if you could resend it, I will. Yeah, we'll follow whatever we have to be done.
Yeah, we could have a follow-up, meeting if you like. Once you get the memo and you go through it, if you have any questions, we can meet and go over it. Give you some guidance on what needs to be done.
All right.
I think it's all workable. It just needs to be demonstrated.
Yeah. We will get it done. Like any procedure. Some sitting. I think the sitting outside. They have a 3 sitting gravel under the sitting and was existing when I took over the place. But whatever workable, we could make it done.
Okay, that sounds good. I did want to bring up one other thing, which is, while we have you on the line, sort of, is there is a discussion about putting a crosswalk in across 121 from sort of the area by the high school over to the Bluebird shopping center. And we noticed that the Bluebird shopping parking lot and your parking lot in the back there are very close, and it might be advantageous or something you would consider to work with the people about putting in a path, or perhaps it might be like it might need a slightly wooden bridge or something there to enable people to walk from the high school. If this, this is a longer term process.
Yeah. If that's workable, we could make it happen.
Okay, good. So it's good to know you're willing to do that. I don't think it's imminent, but while you're here, I just wanted to bring the idea.
Where did we get? I'm just curious where that came up.
That's actually something I had thought about. I've been working with the town board a little bit on the potential for a crosswalk
Okay.
on 121.
I didn't read your memo in detail, but I don't remember seeing that.
No, it's not in the memo. It's something I've
okay.
really indicated to the chair as something that could be brought up just to see if there's any sort of willingness, because I think there's a desire to get the high school kids safely to this destination point, and without sidewalks on 121 and 35, it's a little tricky. So we're trying to come up with a way between using different properties to get them there. So just a thought, not really part of this application, but wanted to mention it.
Yeah, I apologize for derailing the you know, the meeting a little bit, but I wanted, since we had the owner there, to find out if there was willingness to discuss it further. I think was about all I wanted to.
So are we saying this has to be part of his site plan, a revised site plan?
No, I think this is future. This is a future thing, but it's an understanding of whether or not there would be interest in that potentially in the future, because I think it helps the rationalization and argument for installing a.
So how's the planning board going to be involved in that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you. So it sounds like, again, if you can get an updated, you know, these answers to some of the parking calculation, a little bit on the front lawn, or what will be done there. Our due date for June is April 27th, which is, no, sorry, got that wrong.
Yep.
Is May 25th. So if that can be done, we will see you in June, otherwise July, okay?
No, sure. No, it should be by this month. We got it done.
Perfect, that'd be wonderful. Okay, so we'll see you in June.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the site development plan review, calendar number 06-17 PB. This is the Wolf Conservation Center on Buck Run Road in South Salem. And it is an application for site development plan approval, special use permit, and subdivision associated with a private nature preserve. So I think one of the things that we did since our last meeting is we got the EAF part 1 and the lead agency packets have gone out, but I don't think 30 days has elapsed, so we can't really declare ourselves lead agency.
Correct.
Okay, so I see Janet's on. Do you have any comments that you want to bring up now?
No, I mean, well, yes, for the record, Janet Garris, Still Bellow, Donnell, and Weingarten, Wise, and Whitaker here this evening on behalf of the applicant. Also joining me, Matt Geronda, our site engineer from Bibbo, Spencer Wilhelm with the Wolf Center, Dean Travelino as well with the Wolf Center. We made a revised submission to the board in April, and that submission responded to a number of comments that were contained in the February 18th memo from Jan and from Joe. And we've received a revised memo from them, and we are making progress on those comments. We will continue to work on them. Matt is currently working on a submission to DEP, which we anticipate will go in probably next week. We are working on, our wetland consultant is Beth Evans. I spoke with her earlier today. She is in the process of working on a wetland mitigation plan. The subdivision map is also, still under revision. We hope to have that to you shortly. So, again, we are making progress on the application and in response to the comments, and, hope to continue with review. As you mentioned, and as Jan mentioned, the lead agency notices went out. You're correct. It hasn't yet been 30 days. So we're hoping to be back before you next month so that you can assume lead agency status and so that we can continue the review of that. As we go forward with this application, there's one thing that I wanted to mention to the board, and that is that, and I've mentioned this to Jan previously, the Wolf Center is in conversations with a neighboring property owner, property on Pamela Lane. And there is, and I can share my screen if you want, but there's an interesting shaped tax lot, which is adjacent to both One Buck Run, partially adjacent to One Buck Run and Three Buck Run. It's a very skinny, narrow piece of property, which is owned by the neighboring property owner. That property owner is interested in acquiring that same skinny length of property, down to Route 35. It just sort of evens out the property line, which is currently irregular. I wanted to mention that to the board. I think that, like I said, we're in conversations with them. I don't think that we intend at this point in time to amend our application to include that as part of this process. But I wanted to let you know that as we get through this process and hopefully complete this process, we will come back to you shortly thereafter if the negotiations are successful and we go through with that plan. So I didn't want you to be blindsided by that. Should we come back to you, shortly after we finish this process, but it's not quite ready to come before the board, and so we're not ready to amend the applications to include that as part of this. So I did want to mention that. One of the things that we'd like to do, and I don't know if we are ready to do that yet, but we'd like to get before ACARC and get started with them in connection with the building and the design of this. And I need to also work with the building official so that we can also get to the zoning board. So we've copied him on our submission. I think that I need to reach out to him. I think we need to actually complete a building permit application in order for him to issue a denial so that we can get to the zoning board, and we'll be in the process of doing that as well.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I thought we had referred this to the building inspector previously, but
well, I'm sorry, we did have a meeting between the time we met with you last and tonight, and I think he needs some additional materials.
Okay.
The referral's been made. It's just a matter of maybe some additional materials and just getting through the review.
Yep.
Okay, so I would look for consensus to refer this to ACARC, and perhaps, I think at some point it has to go to Westchester County, so perhaps that would also be appropriate now. So, and this is consensus, so I'm just kind of looking for thumbs up or nods. Okay,
Yes.
It looks like we got it. Maureen, you're okay too?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so we will refer this to both ACARC and Westchester County. I think the other thing that we want to do is start moving towards the assessment of the environmental impact. I think that would be, so it would be helpful if we could get the EAF Part 2 to look at that and to review that. I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off? Okay, the other piece is that I know in the past we've done, as part of trying to figure out the environmental impact and the seeker, we've looked at traffic studies. Now, my understanding here is most visitors come by school bus, and that perhaps a traffic study is not appropriate, but I'd look for some sense from the board about, because if we do feel that a traffic study is needed, we should give people warning as we start moving towards the environmental impact statement assessment. Jerome.
Yeah, I think a traffic study is really unwarranted. If anything, traffic study should be conducted by the town for the operation of the camp and the town park, which has concentrated activity on a daily basis. I think the Wolf Center is, certainly predominantly bus traffic, and the customary automobile traffic is sporadic. And living around the corner from that and traveling that route frequently, I've never seen any condition that required.
Yeah, and respectfully, I think that there is obviously a stop sign at the corner. It's a controlled intersection. I don't think that the Wolf Center is ever going to generate the kind of traffic that would, in some way warrant anything beyond what exists today. I mean, 35 is a state road. It's a highway. There's plenty of capacity on it. So I don't think that what we'd be generating from this particular use at this site is in any way going to impact, levels of service on Route 35.
No, the traffic on 35 that's concentrated is between 7 and 9 in the morning. Even the evening traffic is not significant. And I doubt if there's any viewers coming to the Wolf Center between 7 and 9 in the morning, just a guess.
Yeah, I would agree. I just wanted to, I wanted to put this out because I know sometimes in the past we have asked for it. I actually think that moving school buses off of 35 so they're no longer, stopping all the traffic and having them be able to pull in will actually be an improvement. But I was looking for information because it's only fair to let the applicant know if we think that that's a direction we'd want to be going before we, as we start looking at seeker.
So there is information, obviously, in the EAF, with regard to trip generation. Again, I recommend that, we all take a look at that. But as I mentioned, I don't think that there's anything here that rises to, the level of changing any levels of service on Route 35 or at that intersection of Buck Run. But we can all take a look at that. And then with regard to the part 2, it has been prepared. I just didn't have an opportunity to get it to your consultant before tonight's meeting, and I apologize for that, but that will be getting to him tomorrow.
All right, so just as an aside, Janet, since Janet from Wolf Center, you're making reference that we should take a look at the EAS.
Yeah, I think.
All right, so do you have it in front of you? Because the question was raised. Maybe we can put it to rest right now if you have some relevant.
Let me flip through it and see.
Okay.
And just while Janet's doing that, I'll just point out that we did ask the applicant to provide site line profiles in both directions on Route 35. That has been completed. It's included in the latest submission, and it's 1,000 plus feet in both directions. So that was kind of what we wanted to make sure was that the intersection and the driveway would be safe, and from our perspective, they've demonstrated that.
Right. So there's not specific information other than whether or not there'll be a substantial increase in traffic above present levels, or will the project generate substantial new demand for transportation facilities or services? So, the answer to that is no. And then, when we talk about hours of operation, there's hours of our operation in there, but there's no.
All right. So the bottom line is that there's no real information on that. The question then becomes, they have not provided information. The question is, do we want them to? Is that where we are? And I'm okay with what Jerome said. Jerome lives near there. I think he's, probably in a good spot to really talk about that. I don't know what the other people say, but I'll follow that lead on that. Just to take it off the table since it was raised.
Yeah.
Right. I don't, so to be clear, I don't think we need it, but I wanted to make sure that
Okay.
I think it's,
is that something that you're going to have to do in part 2 of the environmental? You're going to have to address that further in part 2?
Well, you're going to be asked in part 2 whether traffic is a significant impact. So you need some justification to check that box. No. Typically, you go back to part 1 and they'll provide, some trip rates and.
Right, but they didn't do that. So now the question is really going to be how much do we want to hold their feet to the fire on that?
Well, I think they could provide some additional information.
All right. Yeah.
Between now and when you.
We're sympathetic to that. We're sympathetic to their position on that. But I don't think we should just wipe it off the board.
No, I understood. And I believe that we can provide you with some adequate information for you to be able to make a reasoned decision.
Yeah. Okay.
I think even by stating that most of the visitors will come by school bus, as currently happens, that there's not going to be a, I think there are things that could be stated.
Right. Well, and I think that one of the things that your consultant has asked us for is our operations plan, which we're in the process of revising, and that'll contain the information that you're seeking.
I think that's going to be sort of the relevant inquiry is, what's occurring now, but what is the business operation? How is the proposed facility sized in terms of what the anticipated visitor flow is supposed to be and the traffic generation?
1 school bus per day versus 5 school buses per day, and so on.
As far as automobiles, are there timed visits? like
Right.
most
Yeah.
places have these days because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah,
But,
I
And
just
one of the
think
things,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, one of the things that we've told the board in the past is that, this is not intended to be the kind of place where you can just show up and visit. Everything is done by
Okay.
appointment or with, scheduled programming. So,
Yeah, so that's helpful too.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So if we will see you, I guess, in June with and probably discuss the EAF Part 2 and anything else that we get at this point. Is any other questions for the Wolf Center at this time?
No.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much.
you very much. I'm continuing to move forward. Okay, so, and I don't see, I'm doing a quick scan back for Vista Market. I don't see Peter on yet, so we're going to continue to keep going. The next item on the agenda is the wetland permit reviews, which are, first one is calendar number 31-21 WP, 21 Lakeshore Drive dock. On 21 Lakeshore Drive is an application for a floating dock. And do we have someone from the applicant on here?
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Victor Alarcon. I'm on behalf of Mr. Andrew Marston, 21 Lakeshore Drive. I'm the contractor. We would like to apply for a wetlands permit to build and install the floating dock. There's no existing dock right now at the property. Mr. Marston got the approval. I'm sorry. Mr. Marston got the approval from the Lake Association already, which I included with the application. Basically, the dock will be built in 3 sections. The first section will be stationary, which will be anchored to the ground with galvanized piles. These are going to be installed 3 feet from the shore, from the shoreline. That's part of the rules that I understand. And the other 2 sections are just going to be simply floating dock sections, which are connected with males and female brackets, which this means they're detachable. All the framing of the dock will be built with ACQ pressure treated, which is approved for water installation. And let's see. And the decking, it will be built with Trex, which is a composed material.
Okay. So I personally am a little confused by where exactly this is going to be located, because I didn't see, it says it's partially on association land, but I didn't understand. I looked at the map and it looked like this parcel is directly on the lake.
This is Andrew Marston from 21 Lakeshore Drive. This parcel is on the lake, that's correct. If it's helpful, I do have a survey that shows it marked up. I don't know if that would be helpful.
I think that would be very helpful because I did not understand where this would go. Great.
I'm going to zoom on my iPad, then I can share my screen if that's okay.
Okay.
Just let me in and then.
We will have to. Okay, Andrew, I think you're muted.
My apologies.
There you are. Okay.
Let me share my screen with you quickly. Okay, I can only share contents. Is that correct?
I think you have the ability to share anything.
Let me just take I can share photos, so I can take a photo of it. It's fine. It's a work computer, so it should be safe.
So is this off to the side of your property or?
No, it's directly in front. And I'm going to.
Can I ask while he's doing that, what our concern
Can you
is
see that
about-
now?
What's our concern about this dock, being that it's a floating dock and there's no adjustment to the landscape or?
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little. So as you can see, you have the water line coming down here. And then the dock is jutting out, maintaining 17 feet from the adjacent lot line.
Right. And this was approved by the Lake Association, right?
This has been approved by T, yes, Truesdale
What is our
Association.
concern, Janet?
Because I didn't know where the dock was going to be on the property at all. So it was.
This drawing wasn't submitted. There was a sketch of the dock, but we had no idea where it was proposed on the property. And there was some indication that it involved association property. So I think this clears up a lot of things for me anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe we should have rejected the submission for lack of information. Anyway, that's just an aside.
Okay, so at this point, I think this is helpful. So I'm sorry, I just finally, because my internet is really slow. I just got the drawing. Where is the association land?
I'm not quite sure where the association land is. I mean, this is Truesdale Lake, which is an association lake. The lot resides within under the control of the T Association.
Okay.
And so therefore I sought permission from them based on the parameters that are set out by Truesdale Lake. They have approved and signed off on this dock in its location and of its size and of its construction. And I think a letter was submitted of their approval.
Okay.
So I don't believe anything of it falls actually on, I guess the lake, is that the association?
Okay,
Janet, you may be thinking of later in the agenda, there's a dock and it's involved with the Truesdale Lake Properties Owners Association land.
Yeah, this one did actually have, it said it was, I mean, it seemed, maybe it was where I read it. It seemed like it was on the association property, and so it was confusing. But this survey, it does help me a great deal. I would look to see whether people feel this could be done administratively at this point.
I would say that.
I guess first, Jan, would you be comfortable taking this as administrative?
Sure. If this drawing could be submitted to Kirsten, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
So I would look for a motion to make this administrative. Jerome.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Charlene seconded. And if we could stop screen sharing so I could see people. Thank you so much, Andrew. So I will now poll the board. Charlene?
Aye.
Jerome?
Aye.
Greg?
Yes.
Maureen?
Aye.
And I also say this can go administrative, so the motion carries, and you're in the capable hands of Jan Johansson to get the wetland permit for this.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, checking again. I still don't see Peter Gregory, so I'm going to keep going. The next item on the agenda is calendar number 32-21WP. This is the DeAngelis Garage at 34 Old Pond Road, South Salem, New York. An application to demolish a garage and reconstruct a garage in a slightly different location. So I see, I'm not sure who is representing the applicant. I think the Campbells are on. Oh, Bob, thank you. Hi, Bob. You're still muted. You're still muted, Bob.
I'm muted. Okay.
There you are. Okay, good.
Thanks for hearing us tonight. Bob Eberts for the Campbells. This property is owned by the Louis DeAngelis Irrevocable Trust. This is Louis DeAngelis is Michelle's father, Michelle Campbell's father. The property's been in the family for many years. And their proposal is to remove an existing accessory two-car garage and to construct a new two-car garage with an office above, an office for Morgan. Now, the existing garage is the back corner is sitting in a spring, in a stream in the back corner, which I'll show you. But we want to bring that away from the wetland, bring it forward a little bit, about 10 feet, so that we can keep that clear of the wetland. Could I share my screen? Would that be all right?
Sure.
This is the property. This is Old Pond Road up here, and this is Lake Wacabuck here. The driveway comes down the hill into this little valley area, and the house sits back here, backs up to Lake Wacabuck. The existing garage is this little triangle right there, and there's a little shed right next to it. Now, there's a spring right here that turns into a stream that goes into a culvert that eventually goes under the driveway and then drains into Lake Wacabuck. So you can see the back corner is really right sitting in that area. So we want to pull that garage south a little bit, about 5 feet, and out about 10 feet, so that we can clear that wet area. The wetlands are really on both sides of the stream. It really wraps on the north side here and then right around the back. And I'll show you some pictures of that. Also, there's wetlands that continues up the hill here, and there's wetlands in this area as well. So there's really not too many other places we can go with this. You've got a stream, again, a larger stream coming down here. There's a wet area across here. There's a stream here. So I think really just pulling this away from that spring is probably the best solution for us. Let me show you a little larger view. This is a little bit larger view. This shows the existing garage here, that little woodshed. And then the septic tanks are over here, and it's a pump system that pumps up the hill. So we would like to connect to that so that the office, which is going to be above the garage, can have a little powder room. And we subfeed the electric and water from the existing house as well. So we'd go right across the driveway to that area. I thought I'd show you some pictures if that's okay.
Sure.
This is a photo looking down the driveway, coming downhill. This is the garage building right now. The house is over on the right. This is looking at the house. This is Lake Wacabuck and a little cabana that's over here. There's a stream that runs in front of it. That's the stream that runs in front of this, between the house and this little cabana. See, it runs under the driveway. This is the spring behind the garage. I'll give you a little bit better image of that, I think. Here you can see it a little bit better. This is where the spring happens. This is the back of the garage. So the spring comes out of the ground here, kind of comes into this, I'll call it a swale or a spring stream. It goes into a culvert that eventually goes under the driveway. This is the front of the garage with the little woodshed. So again, what we'd like to do is take this down. It has no foundation right now. The slab is heaved terribly. It's not in good shape. There's a lot of rot. We'd like to take that garage and move it forward, so you bring it towards this circular driveway here, or this loop in the driveway. and over a little bit where this boat is sitting right now. So this is the only dry area that we can find to put that garage. So again, you could see some wetland growth right in here, and you could see it in the behind as well. You can see the wetland growth here. So really, this back corner is sitting so close to that stream. We just want to pull it out and away. So that's our proposal at this point. If you have any questions.
So you're not increasing the impervious area really by moving it towards this driveway?
We're actually not. When you the garage is larger by virtue of the stairs that are going to the second floor. So we're going from about 450 square feet in the existing garage up to 600 square feet, but we're also taking away this woodshed. So you take that away, you take some of this driveway away, we're actually reducing the impervious area.
Okay. I would propose that this be handled administratively.
Well, I do have a couple of questions on this first that I'm, the line of easement that is on the plans, what is that?
It's access to the water from this non-existent road.
Oh, okay. Oh, from the party, whatever it is, avenue, the
Right.
not a physical road. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the other line of the easement? I mean, you can't get access on a single line. You need another one.
I agree, but that's all that's shown on the survey.
I see.
We'll do a little more investigation on that to get a little bit clearer picture if you'd like.
Well, I wondered whether it restricted something on one half of the property or the other. If it's just an access easement from a road that doesn't exist, it's possible it has something like a, it's possible it has something, like you're allowed 5 feet on either side of the line or something. But I wanted to make sure it wasn't stopping development on either the north or the south of whatever it was. Okay. The other question I guess I have is that, so this would appear to say that everything is in the wetland buffer, the house, the garage, everything, because it's all surrounded by water there, and Lake Wacabuck on the other side, correct?
Yes, the only thing that's not is the septic up here. That's why they pumped it up to this high dry area that's outside the wetland buffer.
So Bob, where's the other side of? Because that's confusing. When I originally thought and looked at this, it looked like the septic was in the wetlands.
No, that's the dry area. The wetland is the remainder of the property.
Okay, but where's the other side of the wetland line? There's only one line there.
You're right, and that's the way it was mapped originally. I just assumed the remainder of the property was in that. It clearly appears to be.
Yeah, but the driveway, the house, obviously that's not in wetland itself. So we have requested, and specifically because you could see in the pictures there's a lot more wetland vegetation out there than what is depicted just on showing the edge of the streams. So we've requested an updated wetland delineation. And I'd like that to take place before there's any kind of consideration of whether this be handled administratively or not. The other item is there's some question of the zoning and what zoning district this property's in. I've been discussing it with the building inspector. There's some differences in the zoning maps. He's got it on his map as being half of the property in the quarter-acre zone, half of it in the 1 acre zone. The maps I have show it entirely in the 1 acre zone. But even if Joe Angelo is correct in that half the property is in the quarter-acre zone and half is in the 1 acre zone, he's indicated to me that more restrictive zoning district applies, and the setbacks for the R1 zone would need to be applied to the project. So that would push zoning setback, well into the garage. So I think there's some that need to be flushed out here. We had a pretty lengthy memo. I'd like some of those items addressed.
I spoke to Joe early on thinking that this was a 1 acre zone, thinking that we needed a side yard variance as well.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the first question was what he considered front yard and what he considered rear yard. And he considered rear yard the lakeside. So this would be a side yard variance if this was 1 acre zone.
Right.
But he said, no, this is quarter acre zone. And I said, are you sure? Do you want to check the zoning map? He said, I did. He said, it's quarter acre zone. That was his answer to me in an email.
Yeah, I know, and you forwarded that to me, but then I questioned him just because, not him, I questioned the interpretation just because I have 2 maps that show it otherwise. And then he came back and indicated that half the property was in the 1 acre, half of it was in the quarter acre, and that you had to apply the 1 acre zoning regs because you have to apply the more restrictive zone. So I think we need to have a conversation and get on the same page there.
I'll speak to him in the morning on that.
I think that I'm having internet problems tonight. I hope everybody can hear me. I think the best course is there are some zoning questions, and I think in terms of what zoning may or may not apply, what dimensional regulations may or may not apply, it may influence, the overall, context of this project. I think we probably, the board would be well served by just referring this to Joe and get, a formal read on it.
But I agree with that, but just as a backdrop to this, it appears to me that the area is already disturbed. There's driveway, there's sheds, there's et cetera. And it looks to me like the new footprint doesn't encroach beyond the impacted or the disturbed area. So, and there's an improvement, moving it away from the stream. So, there's a lot of esoteric questions about zoning, but I think as a backdrop, I see this as a no-brainer in terms of its relocation in an area that's already disturbed.
Right. Do we have I'm with Jerome. Do we have any indication upon, is there going to be anything going to be substantially different about the new garage?
I'm sorry.
It's 200 square feet bigger, Greg, but.
Right. Well, okay. And yeah.
And it's going to have a second floor and a powder room, but I don't think, but the footprint, which is what we worry about in a wetland permit is not,
Right. Well, okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was the essence of my question. I'm not so much the interior, but the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any possibility? I understand it's getting better, but is it the best it could be, or is it as far away from the wetland itself as it can be? Could it slide further towards the house and be even further away? I mean, the disturbance limit line, Jerome, on this is in the stream. Okay.
That's because the back corner of the existing garage is in the stream.
Yeah, but you have stormwater management going right there. I mean,
well, we figured that was already disturbed, so that's where we would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how stormwater would function there, being in such a high ground
damp area. Yeah.
I'd like to see the garage moved closer to the house and just have it front loaded, maybe from kind of where that teardrop circle is, push it kind of in line with that maybe, and have the garage doors face the other way, maybe even further away from the wetland. I understand simple application, but I have concerns about it. And as it stands now, I'm not comfortable handling it administratively.
Okay.
Well, I think the first thing I heard was I'm looking for consensus to refer this to the building inspector and get that feedback. Everybody okay with that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So, and the second thing, I almost sort of say, you guys ought to take a look at the freeze application, which has a garage coming, but it has they moved it sort of to the side of the house, and it has a patio, and it looks over the lake. I mean, not a patio, a deck. So it's maybe there could be a better place for this to go. I would say both the CAC and I think Jan's memo suggest a potential site walk here. Is there any interest in doing a site walk for this, or do you feel that it's that we wouldn't really get that much more information, other than the sort of details that Jan has asked for?
Yeah.
Greg is not interested.
I don't think we need a sidewalk.
No, I think it's the latter. Yeah. But Jan, everything is in the buffer, right? Everything.
Yeah, but it's so close to the wetland drum, it's feet away from the stream. And the stormwater management practice is almost in it.
Yeah.
And there seems to be, does there need to be all that macadam there? Could they shift it just another 10, 15 feet so it doesn't have to be on top of the stream? There's no room to do stormwater on this.
I could be wrong, but looking at the photos, that looked like an intermittent waterway, hardly a stream, but maybe some kind of a runoff from.
Well, there's a lot of wetland vegetation there.
Yeah, it's pretty wet. We looked at trying to do some stormwater management for the stuff to the property to the north that kind of runs down onto this property at one point, which is, so I wasn't really looking at this property, but I was looking at sort of the uphill and the part off to the right as we're looking at it. So I guess that's the east and the north. And there was a lot of flow that seemed to go down onto this property. So which is sort of in the, valley, and it's quite wet.
They're also proposing to put a drain inlet in the driveway and run it off into the stream, which that could happen, but they have to treat the stormwater before it's discharged to the water course.
Actually, that's existing. We're just putting a basin with a cover on it. Right now, it's just got a bluestone slab sitting over it, checked it a little bit. So we were just trying to clean that up since it's going in the proposed portion of the driveway.
So there's a drain inlet there that discharges.
It goes directly into the into a culvert that runs into a stream.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it does sound like there's a few questions that need to get addressed. I do understand that it's a small, it's something that we could potentially consider for administrative, but especially while Jan has reservations, and while there's a lot of questions about whether this could be in a better place, I guess I'd ask whether you could look at potentially some of these things you're hearing and come back in either June or July with either tell us, well, something changes, or here's why alternate places would not work. Because I think that's one of the things our code does say, is try to make sure it's in the best place, and that other areas have been considered.
I think we could move it 10 foot forward without hurting the use of the property.
Yeah, I mean,
and with that, the rain garden would come forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the the applicants would have to, the owners would have to make sure they're comfortable with it. But I think there is potentially room for improvement here that would be helpful.
Understood.
Anybody have any comments? Oh, could you stop sharing and then I can see everybody?
Of course.
Thank you, Bob. So
I'm
look at
okay.
this. Are there any other comments, questions, concerns from anybody?
No.
Okay, so again, I think to come back in June is pretty quick. Our submission date's a week from now, but maybe you can do that. Otherwise, July, I think it would really be helpful. Just again, if you say we've looked and there's no other place, I understand, but I think maybe you can find something that might be a little bit less intrusive on the wetland as Jan has recommended.
I agree.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, great. Thank you. We will see you again soon.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I believe we did see Peter Gregory come in, so I'm going to go back now to the Vista Market. So this is calendar number 01-21 PB and number 08-21 WP, the Vista Market at 469 Smith Ridge Road, South Salem, New York. And this is the application for installation of fuel dispensers. So, Peter.
Yes.
You're on.
I am here. I made it. Thank you very much for allowing me to change things up a little bit. I had another meeting tonight in a different town, and we freed up. So, if I can, I'll share our drawing.
Sure.
Let's see. Here we go. So I'm here tonight with Mr. Kevin Rana with Ashi LLC representing the Vista Market. Vista Market is a tenant on this property. Let's see if I can change this one. So 469 Smith Ridge Road basically consists of 3 parcels. The total acreage of the site is approximately 3.4 acres. There are 3 structures on the property. The market, which is located in the central portion of the site. There is a framed 1-story building to the north and this framed dwelling just to the south behind the market area. The majority of the site is developed. There is an existing paved parking area for the most part on both sides of the market. The southern portion is paved. And then we've outlined, based on the survey information up to this point, is that we have a paved area in the other portion of the northern side of the property. The rear of the property is not developed, but I think, as you are aware, it is currently in use by the neighbor for, I guess, storing some material. We are aware of that. We have to deal with what they're using that for, how it's being used, and how it may affect or may not affect what we're looking to do moving forward. But we will be in touch with the neighbor to discuss that portion of the site. The plan is to install fuel dispenser pumps and what I'm referring to as the southern parking lot with a canopy overhead. We have looked at improving the parking area to the north, better defining the entrance and the exit on both sides of the property, as well as giving a better indication of how the circulation would work through the site, designating areas for parking within that paved area, and incorporating landscaping to provide streetscape and site improvements on that portion of the site. Generally, that's the configuration looking at the entire overall site of the property. fuel dispensers, canopy on the southern portion. We would be looking to create an island along the front property line, which would better define the entrance coming in, possibly with a one-way flow of traffic in that would allow us to circulate around and leave the site from the gas station area. We are also looking to possibly create an island in the front on the northern parking area as well, with an entrance coming in. We do have it configured right now that would allow 2 vehicles to pass in aisles on each side of this parking area, but trying to limit the widths of the openings for the entrance and exits to better define how vehicles will enter and exit the site. And then we were also calling for parking along the rear of the site or the rear of the area that is paved, leaving the rear of the site as currently is configured. There is a dumpster area and loading space that would be utilized on the northern side behind the market area. And all of the work that we would be looking to do would to be improving it, pulling it onto the site, taking it off of out of the state right of way, and improving what's currently existing in that area. There are wetlands that are associated with this site. There are wetlands located across the Smith Ridge Road, and a portion of our property will fall within the regulated buffer area. And what I'd like to do is I can even go to a better, here we go. Just have a better idea at a better scale as to what we're looking at. Again, our entrance coming in on the southern part of the property would allow the vehicles to pull perpendicular to the market area, canopy above, possibly expanding our paved area to the rear of the parking area to allow for better traffic flow. And then on the northern side, the same thing, one way in. We are showing 25-foot aisle widths all the way around, allowing vehicles to maneuver in and out. And then again, improving and better defining the exit that people could leave the site, and keeping this to a minimum so that we would be able to manage or control how people enter and exit again, and then preventing having 2 lanes of traffic trying to pull out, which could be an issue. And we've had some preliminary discussions with New York State DOT. They are, they would like to see more information on this, but we are, I guess, meeting their objective in terms of better managing the traffic flow and patterns entering and exiting the site. In terms of our stormwater, we do realize that we would have to provide some stormwater mitigation for the property. There currently aren't any drainage structures on the site. Basically, for the most part, the majority of the surface area is directed toward Smith Ridge Road, and there is an existing catch basin that's located just to the south of the property on Smith Ridge Road that pretty much captures all the runoff leaving this site, discharging it through a culvert underneath Smith Ridge Road to a wetland area across the street. We would be looking at possibly capturing that runoff that's leaving the southern parking area, preventing it from going out to the road, running it through some form of a subsurface treatment system. I'm looking to do maybe some type of an underground chamber that would provide some filtering prior to it leaving the site and flowing off onto Smith Ridge Road. But we haven't developed a plan that far yet, but it is something that we are considering. I have had an opportunity to review the comments that were issued regarding our conceptual plan that we're submitting. I think that we do have some work that we have to do, but I don't see any issues in here that that we wouldn't be able to address. I know that we have some questions. I know we have to look at, for the most part, how these parcels are configured within the overall 3.5 acre site and how that plays out with our zoning setbacks and our uses. But we've started to look at that, and I think we can possibly have an opportunity. If we could, we would meet with the building inspector again and kind of go over that, with him. We did have an opportunity to have a pre-application meeting before we came in. We've done our best to try and address some of the concerns that came up early. And again, we would just look forward to moving forward with something and doing something with this project in the southern parking area of the site. And I'd answer any questions anybody may have.
I have a comment, Peter. It seems to me that if I pull in there for gas and I want to go into the store, I should have a place to put my car out of the way, and instead of pulling out again and coming in to a northern, in other words, having to park again. Is there any consideration for shoppers that want to come in after getting gas?
Well, we did look at that early on. And one of the things that we were looking to do was to create some additional parking spaces in front of the frame dwelling and expanding this, the paved area into that lawn and sloped area a little bit further. I think that would give us the opportunity for someone to park. They'd have to walk to the entrance, which is out in front. And I still think that it would leave sufficient area for vehicles to circulate, get around the canopy and leave the site. We have prepared a sketch where we started to study what the maneuvering would entail. And I think there would be area to do that on the southern portion of the property without having to drive around to the north.
I guess my question on that, so you would need to be able, well, could you identify perhaps where the gas tanks or, the subsurface gas tanks are going to be, because you will need to be able to get delivery trucks to that place. Now, I don't know where those are. But if you have parking, that might conflict with that.
I think we'll be able to park over them. Originally, when we had looked at this, we had the canopy and the dispensers rotated 90 degrees. And when we did it that way, it allowed us to install the underground storage tank on this location here, which was maybe pretty much to the rear of that parking area. And that allowed us to have the trucks pull in between the dispensers to fill those tanks. I think we would have to be doing something which would probably be, in this case, perpendicular to the building located here, and then allowing the trucks to possibly back in and fill those tanks from either the right side of the parking area or over in front of the building. It's my understanding that the market can work with the fuel delivery companies to kind of request times when that fuel could be delivered. It can either be delivered very early in the morning or late at night. And I think we'll still study the placement of those tanks and look at how the trucks would maneuver in and pull out of the site. On our subsequent submissions, we can show that to you.
Yeah, that would be, I understand that people might want to park there. And that theoretically you can schedule gas delivery, but I'm concerned that there would be a conflict there. So it would be helpful to see exactly how the trucks would go wherever that is.
Sure.
Is there an attendant at the site?
There are, and that's a question I'd have to ask, I don't know, Kevin, if you can hear and you want to answer that, but normally there would be employees that are working inside that are manning this area during their hours of operations. Whether or not they will be coming out, I do not have that answer for you yet.
Yes, it's gonna be, yes, sorry about the interview. Yes, it's gonna be 2 people all the time is gonna be there. So if somebody need a help, it's gonna be outside, they can go. And also we're gonna put, there's always have radio system over there, so they can put talk outside, inside. Also, we're gonna have a camera and TV inside. So if somebody need a help or something outside, we can see in a TV inside right away.
Where would they be located?
It's near the counter. So where we have a counter in the middle, we put the TV and right on the front over there, so we can see actually what's going on outside right away.
Is there going to be a bathroom in that area?
Yes, we're gonna have a bathroom.
Does one exist now?
We have it right now is a one not unisex bathroom, just only male only, right the bathroom over there. But what we're gonna do that is I talked to one of the plumbers, and he said that he had to put eject pump something. He said that he has to go and talk to town first and find out he can put it in there or not.
Okay. Well, maybe one of the things that I was going to ask about, I know when we've had power outages, especially some extensive ones, the gas stations that had a generator were very popular.
Sorry about it. That's what I'm trying to planning is that one. So when I'm going to do this one, I was actually going to put the generator right now too, but I was just waiting to pass this one. If it's a pass, I'm just going to put the generator. So it's going to be like, run with the propane. So I already, is a separate tank come. So it's like with the propane, generator can be run for 2 days, 3 days,
Okay, and where would that be?
That would be behind the building is, you can see right now where the, right around this area, we're going to put it in generator there.
Okay. All right, maybe I think it's appropriate to ask Jan to go through some of the highlights of your memo.
Sure. First, I did have an opportunity to meet with Peter on this a couple of times, and I'd like to just thank him for making some changes to the plan. I think really improved circulation from what had originally been shown. And I'll just point out that, as you all know, there's one just massive curb cut across this entire property. And the introduction of the landscape islands, I think, will be attractive and also will really go a long way to improving traffic circulation. But there's some overall kind of zoning questions that we have, some information that needs to be provided before this is ready, probably for the building department to review, parking calculations and such. The town also, in the last couple of years, adopted a special permit used for gas stations and convenience stores. So I've asked the applicant to just go through those regulations and conditions and demonstrate compliance. So that should be done before it goes over to the building department as well. Let's see. We asked for a business plan and a use and operation plan, an existing condition survey with some topography. I think it will be important, as Peter mentioned, right now that the site just drains to the street and then ultimately in a culvert to the wetland across the way. And because of the nature of the business, I think having some sort of stormwater quality controls on the property would be certainly beneficial. The property has 3 different uses on it right now. I'm not sure what's in the old former church, if that's being used or not, but that's on its own parcel without any parking. So I'm assuming there's some easements there that we'd like to see. But if we can get a kind of a floor plan or just some indication of each of the different buildings, the layout and the use, so that we could formulate the required parking needed for the property, that would be be helpful, Peter. I don't know if you have floor plans of the existing buildings. We got to
We
develop.
have, yeah, we have floor plans of the market itself, and there is a small second floor office, but it's my understanding that the frame building to the north used to be a church.
It was a
So-
church, and it's been rented out a couple different times. I don't know who, if anybody's in there now, but we'd like to know what.
Yeah, I think it's being used as a online store. You can order, I think you can order it's wine, and you can come and pick it up at that. So I would assume it's being looked at as a retail space right now. I would assume
Okay.
based on that. But yes, we would go through. We'll confirm the floor space, how it's being used, to then work back to our off-street parking requirements on that.
Yep. And, to the extent that you're over parked, I mean, it looks like there's quite a bit of parking on the property for the uses that are there and being proposed. One recommendation we had was if all those spaces were determined not to be required at this time, that the zoning ordinance does allow the land banking of parking spaces. So that's something to consider, especially on the north side of the market.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we're not opposed to that. I think we just want to confirm what the required are versus that. But, we do, I think right now we're showing approximately 40 plus spaces, 42, 43 spaces. And how it's currently being used today, I think that there is a lot of asphalt out there. And I think that we could do something along those lines.
Yeah. I think that the zoning analysis right now is probably the most important. And then as the project gets fine-tuned, we'll be looking for more detailed landscaping plans, lighting plans, things of that nature. But I think the parking calc and his overall zoning calc and demonstrating compliance with the special use permit provisions would be the first order of business.
Thank you, Jan. I think I did have, probably all of us have driven up to a gas station where the music was playing on the top of the stations and there was ads and news or something. I'm just going to say that I think our preference would be to not have any of that happening in especially in a fairly busy part of town. So I think that would be better. I also understand that at one point there's actually, the assessor has a card that has an old picture of two gas stations right in front of what's now the Vista Market. And I was wondering if you have any information about whether that tank was ever, I'm assuming there was an underground tank that supplied that, whether that tank was ever removed, whatever happened to that. I think the gas stations or the gas pumps were still there in the 70s. So there should be some record of what happened.
Yes, I don't have anything right now, but we can check maybe with the owner to see if there's any record and start with that first.
Yeah,
I think I've seen that photograph. I think I've seen that with the pumps out in front. I've seen something.
Yeah, the DEC or somebody might have some information about that because it probably, even back then, was probably regulated in some way. Okay, I think one of the things that was in Jan's memo was maybe think about a site walk. Again, I don't know whether this is something that people have an interest in taking a closer look at, or want to do a drive-by and maybe not a scheduled walk.
I have no interest in taking a scheduled walk. We all know this place.
Oh, yeah, very familiar with it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, go ahead, somebody else.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are there any amenities with those two pumps, like the vacuum area and the tire pump? and where they would be placed if. in fact-
I don't know, Kevin, do you have any plans for any other features out there? We haven't discussed that.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that yet, but like, yeah, definitely we can provide it because it's a air and the vacuum. Air is mainly more because people a lot of time rent out the area, something on that one. That's a free of charge on that one usually nowadays. So that's when we can provide it. So just, is help people on that one, but we will go according to wherever the town said that we can put it and it doesn't affect anything in traffic on that.
Yeah,
well,
I wasn't saying
no.
that it had to be provided. I just was wondering if you were going to put one and would that affect circulation? That's all.
Right, but let me just correct from my point of view, the town will not dictate that. It's up to the designer to put that in and satisfy the circulation requirements.
Yes.
But I would also say, Pete, it seems to me that the double tandem parking on the north side probably should be 60-degree instead of perpendicular, since it looks like a one-way traffic pattern would be benefiting the everybody. So if I can only come in on one side, but I have to leave on the north side, and it seems to me that having a 60-degree angle parking would give a clear indication that it's a one-way. Was that your intention or not?
Well, the intention was to have the ability for vehicles to pass in the aisle, but to control how they enter and leave the site. I felt that with the 90-degree parking, we wanted to make sure that they had the ability to back out because we're so close to that side of the market building, on the north side of the building.
Right, but the angle parking makes that a lot easier.
It would. Yes, it would. Yes, I agree. One of the other things we looked at, if it was possible even to connect those two islands with another landscaped island that would run between the two islands that are there now, and just to eliminate some more of the asphalt that's there.
Sure.
But we can look at, we did look a little bit at the angled parking. We could look at reducing that aisle width and see if we can do a little bit of both. Maybe expand a little bit on the landscaping around the building, and then also have the ability to go with the angled parking for a little bit better maneuvering in and out of those spaces.
I think that would be an improvement. Yeah.
Okay, I'd have a couple more, I guess. So if I have seen, I think we've all seen videos of somebody driving away with the gas pump still in their car and all this stuff. Is there a way to contain any spills that occur by the actual dispensary area? I don't know whether it's a little indentation. I've certainly been in places where they have kitty litter sort of scattered all over or something. I don't know what the state of the art is and if there's any containment for spillage, but I think that would be of interest. And then this is just, I'm going to say this basically almost every time I see anybody working on a parking lot, and I know it sounds funny when you're putting in the gas station, but I was wondering if any consideration had been given to putting an electric charging station maybe on the north side of the market somewhere, even if you don't put it in now, but putting in connections in case you want it in the future, so that there's you don't have to dig up the pavement again. And so it's not in their code, it's not a requirement, but I'm throwing it out there because you're digging up the land in case that is something of interest.
Yes, we can work it out on that one. So I have several gas stations in Connecticut on that one right now. And we are doing same thing. So what we are basically doing on that one, we are not gonna put any charging station right now, but we trying to put in a connection, make it ready. So like when the time comes, the power line is they call they run the power line ready, not ready, we just pipe underneath ready. So whenever it comes, you can just make it ready, and the charging station you put it designated place, and then it's easier that way. So you don't have, the way you said it, you don't have to dig it twice.
Okay, so basically you run some kind of conduit. Well, it's great to
Conduit.
hear you. It's great to hear you thinking of that, because I think that's farsighted. So thank you. Thank you for thinking of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like it's too early to refer this to the building inspector. I would like to see some curve, how the trucks are going to get in, but I think
Absolutely,
at some
yes.
point we're going to want to put this in front of the fire department, but they might want to see the turning, how trucks will get in and out too. So I think it might be a little early to refer that to either one. So if maybe you stop screen sharing, I'll look around and
Oh,
see
sure.
if anybody has any other questions or comments. Anybody, anything more? Okay, well, I do think this has certainly improved since the first application we saw. I want to thank you all for doing that, and we look forward to seeing you come back. I don't know whether you can get back for June, but if not, we'll see you in July.
Well, maybe what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is I would like that opportunity, maybe to meet with the building inspector, and maybe with you also, Jan, because I'm concerned about some of the questions that came up regarding the zoning compliance. We'll take a look at how those individual parcels are being viewed, and then how we would have to apply the zoning to those parcels and what we may have to do. And then I think with that, and while that's going on, we can look to get our survey information updated and start developing a landscape plan that we could present next time we're ready to come in.
Peter, I think that's a good idea. Just an informal discussion, if we can do that. And also, I think the assessor should possibly be plugged into this as well, because you have the potential of having kind of disparate uses across 3 parcels, and it may be beneficial to get her, viewpoint on how that would be handled from an assessment standpoint going forward.
Sure, no, I understand. And I think right now with the market as a tenant, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is the plan in the future to possibly for the market to purchase the entire property as a whole.
Yes.
Right now, I think that, he's in a lease agreement with the owner.
Right.
But in moving forward, even with some of all these improvement, it is going to involve the owner's cooperation on this. And I think we're going to have to look at that short term as well as the long term on how that's going to be resolved, as well as what's going on with the nursery to the rear of the site.
Correct.
That's something else we have to talk about also.
Right.
It's going to add that in too. That's another complication. So while you're having that zoning discussion, that'd be great to wrap that in as well. Okay, well, thank you. Any other questions or from anybody to anybody? Okay, seeing nothing. Thank you, and we will move on to, I think the next item on our agenda is the scheduling of site visit back to the Freeze residence on 54 Bishop Park Road. I don't know if anybody has been waiting all this time to deal with that. I don't see anybody. Okay, well, we had talked about going out there, last time they were not able to set up not able to stake out the location. I'm just trying to bring up my calendar. So I think we usually try to do something typically the Saturday or Sunday before our next meeting, which would be, I think, June 12th. Do we want to try to schedule that on June 12th, and are people available? And is there still interest in going? Charlene, you might have said something, but you were muted.
June 12th is fine.
Okay, 9 o'clock? And,
That's fine.
okay. So Kirsten, since nobody's on for this, maybe you can get in touch with them and say we'd like to do it at 9 o'clock, June 12th. Okay. And of course, if they have a problem or, so, and we will let the CAC know as well. Okay, the next item on the agenda is really a discussion, and this is a calendar number pending, Truesdale Lake Property Owners Association. It's Hoist Street, Paper Road, and it's an application for a lot line change to allow a dock to go in. And I think, Jan, if you could kind of walk us through what the question we have in front of us here, it would be very helpful.
Is there anybody here on the applicant side?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was hoping they would be here to present the plan.
Well, how pressing is this? Maybe we hold it over.
Yeah, it should be held over. I can't, it's an application that involves the construction of a dock at the Gural property, which Jerome, Maureen might remember. They did a big addition and home renovation some years ago on the lake. And they really don't have a great spot to put the dock on the property, and they're looking to purchase some property from the association, which is part of the old Hoyt Street Paper Road. So I asked them to come on a conceptual basis just to see what the board thought about it, because in order for them to purchase that property, there'd be a lot of survey work that would need to take place. There'd be a lot line realignment. So she kind of wanted to run the project, up the flagpole, so to speak, and get some feedback from the board to see if it would be viable before taking the next step and preparing all the professional drawings. And the dock itself is proposed kind of in one of the tributaries to the lake. I don't know if it has a name or not, but it's a tributary into the lake. And they actually want to cantilever the dock over the water so it doesn't become a obstruction. So in my mind,
Well, I definitely like to see something about that.
Yeah.
I mean.
Jan, is this the guy, the well driller?
No.
Okay.
So anyway, I was hoping they were going to be here to give the presentation, but the whole idea was to get some feedback from the board before they took the next step and, prepared the plans and the surveys and such. So I think it'd have to get recalendared.
Yeah,
Our feedback would be show us the plans.
Yeah, well, there's also some questions about the disposition of the paper road, but I don't want to dive. We don't want to dive into that until we know there's some comfort level, from the board, in terms of from a practical perspective about the dock and the dock design.
Yeah, the way I understood this, and I'm sorry I'm jumping in, but that there's the idea would be to take part of a paper road, which can't ever really be a road because it's on the other side. It comes from the other side of the tributary, so it would have to be a bridge over it, which nobody's going to build. And so would we have an objection to somebody using a paper road as a place to put a dock? And the cantilevered idea is that it keeps it'll keep the dock from interfering with anything that might be flowing in the down from the tributary, with disturbing the flow, diverting it, or anything. So
I think they have to present the plan.
Yeah, I think it's dependent on hearing from the applicant.
okay, so we'll put that off till June and ask them.
Well, of course, cantilevered means that there's structure on the land.
Right.
Yeah. There's a couple of footings they're proposing.
Yeah, so that's in the wetland area, and of course that would require
some
permitting.
I mean, they did have a little bit of a plan, but if they're not here, we'll put it off till June. So with that, I would look for a motion to, unless there's any further discussion on that, I would look for a motion to approve the minutes of April 2021.
Yeah.
I'll make
So
the
moved.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
No.
I'm going to poll the board. Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
Gregory,
Yes.
Maureen, I think you have to abstain.
Abstain.
And I say yes, so the minutes are approved. Our next meeting date is June 15th, 2021. So
Make
with
motion for adjournment.
thank
Second.
you. Okay. Jerome and Greg, Charlene, what do you say?
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Okay, and me too. So thank you all. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And we'll see you in.
Thanks to everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Yeah, have a good
All right.
night.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.